I think if they really wanted to go for a game that would win them a lot of goodwill within their fan base, even if it was somewhat simplified compared to what it used to be, it would be Victoria 3.
I agree.
Which obviously they've decided not to do.
Oh, man.
Or a Cold War game.
Boy, I think that would be really good of them. I mean, if you think about it, every game they have, except for, like, every game that they've iterated upon, the previous one was at least playable. Like, even EU3 was playable. Hearts of Iron 3, well, okay, I don't think Matt agrees with me here, but I think Hearts of 3 was playable. Victoria 2 is actually, like, almost impossible to play. Like, a multiplayer, it crashes, and it's an old game. It's such a complex, detailed game. It needs that user update. I mean, I don't know. So, boy, they would really have me back in a heartbeat. If they, like, Matt, you often say that because they're publicly traded, or, I mean, just they're so big as a company, not because they're publicly traded. That probably has something to do with the reason why they're so big, but because they're so big, they can't afford to do small titles. But is that really true? Why can't they just branch off a small team, or even have a new developer come in to do Vicky 3 the same way that they publish? Just have someone else. If they're not going to do Vicky 3, like, it's the whole Half-Life 3 thing all over again. If you're not going to make the damn game, sell it to somebody.
The thing I worry about is the reason why they don't want to do it is because it's a big risk for them. CK3 is not as big a risk as Vicky 3 or a Cold War game, because they're unsure of what Vicky 3 can provide. I mean, Vicky 2 was successful. However, they know with CK3 they're going to get a large income on launch day. Vicky 3, I know a lot of people, including Paradox, are probably like, it might make money, it might not. They have that kind of 50-50. The Cold War game has never been done. They never tested it. It's like new waters for them. So I feel like that's why they haven't touched that yet.
They don't need to do a Cold War. I know it's very difficult, and it would fundamentally change some of the core elements of the game, but if they really wanted to dabble in the Cold War world, they could just create a DLC for Hearts of Iron.
No, they have to redo it because Hearts of Iron and Cold War don't work together. It's
Except if you look at the way that that they modified CK2 over its life, it is dramatically different than when it came out. I mean, they could definitely, like, a late Hearts of Iron DLC closer to the end, when they're going to start stopping making content for it, they could do it.
I think you need completely new systems to interact with, like Cold War, because there's so many other different. We had Troy coming on the show a couple episodes ago, and he made some really great insights on why a Hearts of Iron Cold War game would not work, because he says there's so many more factors that come in, like industry, like economy, like spying, like so many other different factors that I initially thought, like you were mentioning, but then he kind of dove into it, and I was like, yep, you're totally right.
I don't think they could do it to 1989, but I think they could do a, like, Iron Curtain DLC where it covers, like, into the early 60s. Regardless, though, I don't know, like, I guess to me, like, CK3 is a little bit of a safer bet, right? Like, in theory, but I part of me wonders, and it's hard to say without, like, seeing actual detailed sales figures, which, like, yes, Paradox is publicly traded, but they don't tell me, like, oh, this sold this many copies, right? Or whatever. They give you milestone info, but it's really hard to know, like, what are they actually targeting? What are they forecasting, or whatever? Like, CK3 should be a big success, and I am excited to see what it holds. But what I worry about is when you have Hearts of Iron 4 come out, and there's a bit of a backlash, and you have Imperator come back out, and there is a massive backlash. At that point, I think as a business, and it's not my job to run Paradox, but just as a casual observer and sort of commenting on it, to me as a business, I think you have to be a little bit careful, right? Because Paradox is not the same Paradox they were 10 years ago. That's completely fair to say. And I don't think it's reasonable for people to assume, like, you're going to make just this obscenely obtuse interface. It's going to be like Hearts of Iron 2 again, where it's just like...
Hey, Hearts of Iron 2 is pretty good reason.
Just saying, from a user interface perspective, from if you're trying to appeal to the masses, you're not going to build a game like War in the Pacific, right? Like, fair to say War in the Pacific by Slytherin is never going to be something that, like, the masses are going to adopt to.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're Paradox, you probably are never going to go down that well again. Because it's just not, it's not something that is going to allow you to sell the amount of copies that you need to sell. But here's where I'm coming back.
Why can't they do that thing I was saying? Like, what do you think about them just basically selling the Vicky rights to somebody who will make it then? Or by, you
could do it to a Chinese develler. Maybe
at least
we
publishing
could get
the games,
Halo in
kind of
one.
like the Slytherin games.
Vicky and Halo in one?
I feel like, okay, the thing is, why is this always a big deal? Why is it a big deal that people are like, where is Paradox going, blah, blah, blah? We're just passionate because we freaking love them, and we just love the games they've made. And then it's like you're watching, I don't know what's the analogy, it's like watching a best friend who's like slowly becoming cool when you guys were like nerds and playing video games together, and now he's like slowly putting gel in his hair and going to prom, and like, why aren't you just, being a nerd with me? And I feel like that's kind of what's happening here. I'm watching a best friend slowly get too popular, and at least I want this best friend to, if he's gonna, try to push this analogy as far as it'll go, if he's gonna become too cool, at least let him pay for another friend to come and be my friend. Let him at least publish games.
I'll be your friend.
Paradox now. Yeah, at least publish titles that are my friend, which they have within their means. They're not gonna, maybe make as big of a profit margin, but I don't know. Johan's still there, right? How do the people who have been there for so long, they just feel like, how can they not love making the games like this? Why do you think Imperator Rome was even made? I think that it's been something they looked at, Europa Universalis Rome, for so long and wanted to redo. I can imagine them being passionate about it. I don't want to see that passion go away.
I don't think they're not passionate about it. I just think that they design their games in a way that appeals to a larger audience today because they have to, in order to survive as a company of 400 people.
No, I don't think that's true. I just don't think that's true. I don't know the business, I don't know.
I think you can make an objective. I think you can objectively argue that Hearts of Iron 4 is a better game than Hearts of Iron. I think you can legitimately.
No.
Listen,
that's not.
You can make that argument, and I would make that argument. Just because it
objectively, you're saying objectively.
More does not
subjectively.
More does not mean better.
Not objectively.
Having more detail and minutia does not make a game better.
Okay, but I'm not saying that you objectively can say Hearts of Iron 3 is better or the same. I just take offense. No, it's not even offense. It's just wrong. It's logically wrong to say that you think Hearts of Iron 4 is quote-unquote objectively better than Hearts of Iron 3. That's wrong. Maybe I misheard you, but if you said that, that's wrong.
So you're saying Hearts of Iron 3 is objectively better than Hearts of Iron 4?
No, just because A implies B doesn't mean B implies A. Hearts of Iron 4 is better to some people. It's subjectively probably better than Hearts of Iron 3 to a lot of people. Objectively, absolutely not. I mean, I like Hearts of Iron 3 better. And you'd be saying that, you'd basically be telling me you're logically wrong. It's just a matter of taste. I like Hearts of Iron 3 for my reasons, and I understand why a lot of people don't like it, because it's too detailed, but it's not objectively a worse game.
So this kind of brings me back to